We're recording.
Thank you. So good morning, everyone. Today is November the 16th, and this is the West Haven Subcommittee of the Municipal Accountability Review Board, also known as the MARB. We have a quorum today, and the time is 10:04. I'm Kimberly Kennison for opening remarks. I'm Kimberly Kennison. I am the designee for Secretary McCaw, and with me today is Christine Shaw, who is the designee for our Treasurer Wooden. I do not have any opening remarks, just that would like anybody who is on the call to, unless you are a member, to please keep your microphones on mute as well as your video. And Christine, do you have anything for opening remarks?
I do not, Kim. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. There are plans that Secretary McCall will be joining. I'm going to get things started while she is double booked at this moment. First item on the agenda is for us to approve, looking for a motion to approve the minutes of October the 19th, our regular West Haven Subcommittee meeting, and if I could get a motion, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Christine. How about a second?
Second, Tom Hamilton.
Thank you, Tom. Any discussion?
I have one minor change, one suggestion for a minor change under Roman numeral 5. The second sentence should begin with A rather than N.
Very good, thank you.
And there's one more change under Roman 7.
Yes.
Second paragraph. City should be singular, not possessive.
Okay. All right, including those changes. Any other discussion? Can I get a roll call vote, Julian, please?
Sure. Mr. White,
Abstain.
Mr. Hamilton,
Yes.
Mr. Egan,
Yes.
sorry, I didn't hear that. Did
He said
Yeah.
yes.
he did? Okay.
Sorry, I heard him.
Ms. Shaw,
Yes.
Ms. Kennison,
Yes.
and did Stephen Falsigno join? All right, that's everybody.
Thank you. Okay, the minutes have been approved. Next item on the agenda is the Cohn-Resnick audit, and I just want to bring to the attention of the members today is that OPM has received an anonymous call about an additional specific areas of concern related to the allegations of misuse of CRF funds in the city of West Haven. The state has provided this information to the federal authorities, and as part of our full cooperation in the ongoing investigation, Cohn-Resnick has also been informed of this information. I'm going to ask Frank to please, or the mayor, to please give us a status update on your submittals to Cohn-Resnick for the audit, and where do you stand?
Sure, thank you. So as of right now, we have provided the organizational charts that were requested. I have looked around. We do not have any formal written policies and procedures that I can find. I am still investigating into that. We have provided the financial audits for the last 2 fiscal years, including the federal and state single audits. The interim report that was filed with the city has been uploaded, as well as all copies of all invoices, vouchers, and backup to all of the expenditures that were part of that interim report. So all of that was copied and sent up as well. I did not have hours worked. We did not supply overtime for the police department. That was not part of the submission to the state. We did not have sufficient backup for that, so I did not include it. So everything that I have been able to find, I have loaded up to the CohnReznick site.
Okay. Do you have any pending items, or no, you are up to date, Frank?
I believe I'm up to date. If they would like, what I can do is to write up what I think the procedures were being followed. As I said, there are no official documents that I could find, but I can write up what I believe those procedures were and load them up as well if they'd like that.
I would suggest that you would do that, because no matter what, Frank, when you're done, you're going to need some procedures. So it would be best that at least you get a draft done on the existing process, that was going on while you're there. You're probably going to enhance that process through this, but at least it would be helpful to have that.
Yeah, in anticipation of that, I have started writing up drafts. So
Okay.
I will endeavor to get all that loaded by Friday.
Okay. Thank you, Frank. All right. The next item on the agenda to discuss is the review and discussion of the FY21 MOA.
Yeah,
And
Kim?
I'm sorry, Bob. I didn't mean to step over you. Go ahead.
Oh, no, that's okay. Just stand in line. I've been thinking about the discussion we had last week on this item. In particular, Frank's comment that certain departments have been pushing back for a long time on the very basic suggestion that he had, and I think the mayor had, that regarding purchase orders and invoices. I would suggest that the secretary consider adding to the CohnReznick audit an audit of some scope up to them on those departments that were pushing back. It may very well be that it's simply, I don't want more paperwork, or we've always done it that way. But it can also be that people don't want change because they or someone they care about is benefiting. Maybe this is the suspicion I have. I started my career as a prosecutor, investigating white collar crime. And this, hopefully there's nothing there, but I think it would be a good idea for CohnReznick to make some judgment about a reasonable audit of only those departments where there was pushback.
Mayor and Frank, can you provide us with a list of those departments?
Yeah, I think I can.
Very good. Thank you. You can send that to myself or Julian,
Okay.
and we will take that up with the secretary. Anybody else have any comments about this agenda that we're talking about the CohnReznick audit at this moment? Again, there's a lot of, it's still under investigation. We will not be able to, provide a lot of detail until to give them their time to do the work.
Who are we talking about right now? You can't provide detail for whose time to do the work?
CohnReznick is under contract to do the investigation of West Haven.
Well, they're doing an audit, not an investigation, correct?
Well, correct, but they're working, yes. It's not a regular audit, it's agreed upon procedures.
This is Tom Hamilton.
Yes.
Is there a time frame at this point, Kim, that we're expecting the audit or the agreed upon procedures to be completed, or has that not been established?
again, things are still underway. Many of the items were a bit delayed for them to do their work, but I do know things are underway. Yes, we do have a time frame. Julian, can you help me remember? I thought it was through March, but we're anticipating it could be as soon as February.
Right, that's the current end
Correct.
date.
And since there's a criminal investigation also ongoing, do we anticipate that this audit is going to be withheld pending any outcome from that investigation, or would we get to look at it when it comes out?
The Cohn-Resnick one is what you're
Yes.
referring to, Tom?
Yes.
Yeah, we will definitely be bringing it forth. I don't think that the FBI investigation will have any impact on it. At this moment, it hasn't had an impact even with records at this moment. And we don't think it will be delayed. But again, I'm not involved with any of that, so I can't really comment to let you know if it won't. But as of this moment, it has not had a delay.
Okay, I'm just trying to get some sense so we all have an expectation of
Thank you.
when we should start to, potentially see a report from Cohn-Resnick, which obviously we're certainly very interested in seeing.
Sure.
Yeah, I just want to say for the record, it seems like we're hiding behind this audit as opposed to asking some questions of things that are pertinent, certainly to our board and our jurisdiction. An audit does not stop us from inquiring. There didn't need to be an audit done by the state. It was asked for, but it doesn't stop.
No, we chose this route.
Correct.
We chose
Correct.
this route.
Right, but it doesn't prevent us from discussing issues, because what you have here is you have a misappropriation of funds, and either I think there needs to be some understanding on how things get authorized for payment, I guess in a general sense. I know that there was some confusion in discussion, I think it was at the last board meeting, but we're looking at February, which probably means like March or April. And I think with the millions of dollars that we give the city of West Haven, to sit back on our hands and do nothing while we wait for an audit to be done, which to me is irrelevant, I think it's really a malfeasance on our part. I mean, not only do you have this issue of the federal money, which I think we should get a better understanding of how that works, but you have our money, and generally I know we haven't really gotten into the weeds too much on what was necessarily spent where. We look at budget lines and making sure they're lines are with expenditures are within those budget lines, but now it seems that we really need to start looking at just expenditures to any degree. I mean, what we know right now is you have a state representative who was arrested for allegedly stealing, for lack of a better word, $636,000. At least that's what they have reported in the papers, and but that doesn't account for maybe state taxpayer money or West Haven taxpayer money that's been misappropriated one way or the other. And I just think we've become part of the problem, which to a degree I think we are, in sitting back like this is some type of hands off, because I can tell you any documents associated with us are still public documents under the law, regardless of an FBI investigation or regardless of an audit. If someone FOIs something, they're all releasable. If they were releasable 4 months ago, they're releasable today. And that's been well held by the commission and the courts. So I'm not quite sure I'm comfortable with this kind of sit back and let's just wait for 4 or 5 months to see what Cohn-Resnick says, to the extent that, I don't know how deep they're getting into things. Bob's question that got raised, it kind of gets into more, I think, overall procedures with the purchase orders and things that we talked about before, which is something I want to discuss today for some clarification on my end. But you know, I think we certainly don't want to have, if there's something continuing that hasn't been discovered, that it continues because we don't raise any questions about some things that are in place or not in place with regard to you know, to spending either local, state, or federal money.
Pat, a couple things. One is
this Bob?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. My suggestion, I think, does get to the issue that you raised of what's being done with other money, whether it's ours or the states, or the taxpayers, because if there are some people pushing back, I think an audit there is something that that makes sense. Secondly, I think you know, maybe the secretary will discuss it when she joins us, but from what I understand from the letter, MARB funds from last year, which is what, 4 million or something like that,
Correct.
are being withheld.
Correct.
So I guess I do push back a bit that we're just sitting on our heels. And the final thing is, you know, what questions, I mean, certainly if you have any questions about procedures being done today and whether they're lollygagging on that, I think that's fair game. But at the same time, you know, you really can't ask intelligent questions unless you have a pile of documents. And that would seem to me to be kind of duplicative of what Cohn-Resnick is doing. So
I would agree, Bob. And right now, this workforce that we have cannot take on all of that investigation. That is, or even that type of deep dive of research. That's why we've hired Cohen. And I do think that this conversation will continue as we go on to talk about the MOA and some of the items of area of risk that was already identified by their prior audits in their internal controls. So those are the things that while progress has been made, there's still progress to be made. And I think that, you know, while some focus maybe went on other high risk areas such as payroll and putting in a new payroll system, and we pulled people off of jobs to be able to put in the new payroll system, then while you're doing that, you're opening yourself up, and these vacancies, you're opening yourself up for risk because you don't have all the players in the chair. So my push at this very moment is to make sure that the finance area is properly staffed. Anybody in finance and HR, all of those units that we have asked in their MOA is properly staffed. And then 2, get to make sure that they start to document their processes, and then they will be audited not only by our auditors, Cohn-Resnick, they will also be audited by their own independent auditors at the end of this year, I'm sure deeply.
Yeah, and I mean,
just want to let you know I'm on the call.
I did notice. Thank you, Stephen.
Sorry for my tardiness.
Nope, you're fine.
And these are things that we've been asking about, and however you want to classify it, for the better part of over a year. And that's kind of where, you know, my issues are. I guess I think that then responding to Bob's statement is the issue with departments and the pushback. You know, it seems sometimes a little bit confusing on getting to where the reality is, because in Frank's comments at the last meeting, he stated that, because this has been going on for, I mean, we talked about purchase orders and all this stuff well over a year ago, and he said he's getting this resistance. They don't understand why they have to do it, and something to that effect. And according to the article that was posted subsequent to our meeting, Mayor Rossi literally just found out about this at the meeting we had. So that to me is a problem.
What are you referring to? Found out About what after our meeting?
Okay, so at the last MARB meeting, the
Yeah.
issue of, this whole issue of purchase orders and doing things in a more best practices way. And Frank brought up that he's been, telling them to do this, the department heads, all this stuff for quite some time. And that basically it's just, they don't do it. And they don't understand why they have to do it. And, it's kind of what's left out there like that.
Okay.
And according to the New Haven Register article, the mayor literally just found out about that the department heads were not complying with these directives coming out of finance for the better part of, I don't know, a long time about doing it this way. She just found out last week. So I want some explanation on that, I guess from Frank, that he never, this went on, has gone on for months, and it was not brought to the mayor's attention until it was raised at the meeting we had a week and a half ago. Because I think we inquired with the mayor about her asserting her authority, and she said she absolutely would. Okay.
Correct. That's what she told the secretary, as well as asserting her authority to get these positions hired.
Correct. And then, then Frank, near a few minutes later, asked about basically reaching out to OPM or the MARB or whatever to kind of, I guess, lay down the law or be the heavy hand if people weren't complying, which confused me a little bit because I don't know why he would need our intervention when you have the mayor. But what threw me for a loop was that the mayor was just finding out about this basically at our meeting. So I want to know where the lack of communication is from finance to the boss, okay, when you have department heads not complying with something that for, 8, 9, 10, 12 months has been asked to be done. So it's things like that. We can get into the bigger, issues that are all over the, front page of what the results of things are, but I think it's forget Damas and Bernardo and their company and all that stuff. I think it's the bigger issue is that how do we know other money that is not being appropriately spent, for lack of a better term, when you have essentially a procedure where department heads just green light something, and as long as it's got a signature and something else, it gets paid by finance, and the things that they've been told, you can't do that, we need you to do it this way, by the chief financial officer of the city for a long time, has been just basically rebuffed, and the city's top executive, the mayor, just found out about it because we raised the issue at a meeting. That to me is a massive problem. When you have things in place, and I don't need Cone Resnick to tell me procedures wrong. They can sit there and say, yeah, here's a bunch of procedures that are not in place and that are problematic, which we know because we've been dealing with getting these things done for a year and a half, or if not longer, from audits that came out in 19, came out in 20, that we're still repeating the same thing. But it's even like with the overtime payments, that the overtime payments, which just for the record, I requested some information back a week and a half or two ago, and I still haven't received it. That's a problem. When I ask for something, I want it promptly. Okay, I'll send formal FOI requests to OPM and to West Haven if I need to do it that way. But when you have a procedure for overtime for exempt employees, okay, like the Commissioner of Public Works, who's exempt under state and federal laws for getting overtime, and he gets paid overtime, and the way the procedure is explained is basically it's not reported anywhere. It's just kind of kept, they keep their own little notebook of it. And then they just turn it in to, I don't know who, I don't know if it's directly the mayor's office or to personnel, and then it just gets paid.
I thought that was compensatory time, not overtime. And your request was on overtime.
My request was, well, okay. So any payment okay, or any compensation for overtime. So whether it be paid out, okay, or compensatory time, either one. I want to know how somebody who is exempt under state and federal law from any type of overtime gets overtime, whether it's by comp time or whether it's by payments. The second, part of that which will be explained through payroll, is which I asked for the 5 years prior for those folks in those positions, whether it be the person or the position itself, is that if they got comp time, it should be noted, right? Comp time should be noted in the MUNIS system, and then certainly a payout of it in cash, which occurred, for the fiscal year that just ended, which would be noted also. But the bigger issue is what mechanism creates that. It's not, certainly they're not, the Commissioner of Public Works, unless I'm totally wrong, is not a member of the bargaining unit. They're exempt under state and federal law from any type of overtime compensation, whether it be comp time or actual cash payment. So,
well, that's when we get into the policies and procedures. So exempt, there are two things to look at it. And of course, I'm taking it from my background of not being in public service, is that an exempt position could be warranted compensatory time if that is the benefit policy. So, but then the payout is what is the policy, right? So those are the things that we need to find out about as far as the policy concerning that. And I do believe that some of that information has started to come our way. Whether it is clear or clear as mud is two different things.
Well, yeah, so I don't disagree. If there is a approved policy by the city council, a personal services contract approved by the city council that gives people certain payments beyond federal and state law, it is what it is, whether it's bad practice or not. There was a legitimate avenue that was achieved. But that's the question: is where are those policies? Okay, and where are the payments? Because also, if it's something that for all this time that nobody's ever gotten paid cash, and all of a sudden they got paid cash this year, that's a problem. And it's those little, cracks, crack in the door opening where it's like this opportunity to kind of just come in sideways at something, which is why West Haven is where it is.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, Mr. Egan, this is Frank. Forgive me, I can't find my notes from the last meeting. What was it that you were looking for? I'll see if I can get that pulled for you.
I'll, you know what I'll do? I'll put it in writing to you, Frank.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Pat, if you do that, could you please copy myself and Julian and the secretary?
This
and also me.
And the mayor.
Me too. Thank you.
This is Sal Luciano. I'd like to make a point of personal privilege based on the meeting we had, the full MARB meeting.
Yes, Sal.
So I get this phone call, and it's from the union, and they're saying that we somehow gave permission for Frank to violate the contract. I don't remember doing that at the last meeting. What I do remember is that when Frank complained of pushback from department heads, we said fire him if they're pushing back. That's what I recall. There's nothing that I remember where we said for Frank to violate the contract in terms of hiring or anything else. And there's a question as to why positions have been vacant for so long. And I expect management to fill those positions, but we did not give permission to any administrator there to violate a contract that in most cases we approved ourselves as the MARB. Thank you for allowing me to say that.
Yes. Thank you, Sal. All right, any other discussion on this item? It's kind of morphing into the next agenda item, which is part of the FY21 MOA update. So the secretary, we sent out a letter last night to Mayor Rossi and copied the MARB members from Secretary McCaw regarding the MOA compliance. And from that, the board has been waiting for the city to prepare plans for complying with the requirements of the FY21 MOA. Now, several of the requirements of the MOA related to purchasing under the MOA, under sections 8 and 9, required resolution of audit findings, which were there have been 3 open audit findings relative to purchasing. In addition, on that same note, under section 7 of the MOA, it required munis training and having a training plan, and purchasing procedures are to create that for the munis module to cover the training as well as the implementation of that purchasing side of life. In addition, under section 12, the city was required to have adequate staffing in the purchasing function, as well as in general, the finance office and the HR office. So with that, the city has submitted to us, and it's included in your packet today, is the purchasing related requirements and some of the updates that have been provided. So I think it would be helpful for us to go through that and have Frank update us on it. And the city still would need to report out on those tasks of the plan today, and the open items that are still there. We still are pending actual dates of completion for many of these open items. So Frank, could you, since we included today in the MOA, and folks have received the letter, Mayor, you did receive the letter, correct? From
Yes,
Secretary McCaw?
Yes,
Okay.
late yesterday. Yes, I did. And
Do you have any questions regarding that particular letter and what the expectations are from the secretary?
No, I don't. I think she was very clear in the letter, so I understood it, and I did get it late yesterday.
Understand. But it's not new, and these are still ongoing items that are still remain open that we've discussed, in our, again, at length in our October 6th board meeting and our November 3rd board meeting. And so the expectation is of the items in the MOA that remain open, we need definitive dates. We need expectations of when you will be completing these dates, not just the status update of here's where I am today. It is, I anticipate I'm going to a solid date, and it's not an unrealistic date. It is a realistic date, and when we can expect to see those things completed, because that has to be taken into consideration for this year. And knowing that you have funds, as you start to move towards getting towards your audit, those are going to be some of the questions, and the lack of compliance. You already, from this letter, the secretary is saying that you're in jeopardy of those funds.
And I am aware of that. I did read it. And again, I know a lot of it goes around the corrective action plan, which Frank was in charge of. And I know now, I spoke with him again yesterday about it, or last night. And we have brought on board a woman that has worked with Scrog, and I have a contract with her to move forward with the purchasing. Additionally, I also would like to see, I know that there was a time frame that was given to you as part of the materials. I would like to see the job descriptions done ASAP, as opposed to holding them out a few extra weeks, and get these people in the position, because it takes time, as we all know, to hire someone. So we need the job descriptions first, and then we need to post them and get somebody in there. I think that is key and extremely important, and I would rather have that done sooner than later. And I have already discussed that with the woman who is going to be doing it, along with the personnel director.
Okay, so HR will be helping Frank with this?
Yes, I talked to the new personnel director, and yes, she will be assisting.
Okay.
When did we hire a new personnel director?
October the 18th, Mr. Egan.
And she comes from where?
I don't have her resume in front of me, but she does have excellent credentials. I can send you, I have a copy of her resume. I just don't have it with me right now.
Okay.
Can you
She's
send
got
that?
over 25 years of experience.
Mayor, please forward that to Julian.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
To a question that may tie into Sal's question. My recollection was that one position, which I do not recall, was being kept open because there were some collective bargaining issues involved. I don't, if someone could refresh my recollection, because I
It's
think
accounts payable.
Oh,
Yes.
Bob.
Okay.
And again, so as you're listening today, you're hearing that the accounts payable position has been vacant and purchasing has been vacant. Okay?
And are both involved with collective bargaining?
I can answer the purchasing position that's been vacant now is we have a person in it, and that person is on paid administrative leave. That's all I can discuss about it, but that's why the purchasing one is vacant. The other one was the accounts payable analyst, and I believe Frank can give a better update, but I believe that that position has been filled or will be filled shortly.
And were the collective bargaining issues resolved?
As far as I know, yes, right now. So we'll know once we put somebody in the position. But yes, I do believe that they have been resolved.
Okay.
Is this a position where there was an internal candidate?
Yes.
Frank, I believe so.
The final,
right?
yeah, the final winner for the accounts payable was an internal candidate with the accounting credentials that we required. Personnel director has been forwarded the job description from the internal candidate, so that position will be posted. I'm hoping this week.
So the analyst is the new position, Frank, or the old?
Is the new position.
Okay, and the one that you're saying is internal that would be becoming vacant is?
Yes, she's currently in finance.
What is the name of that position?
That is the junior analyst.
Thank
Junior
you.
financial analyst.
And did we get external applications for that also?
We did, but I was under the impression that according to the CBA, if we have qualified internal people, we need to give them the position before going externally. I don't expect anyone internally to be able to fill the junior financial analyst position.
So the AP analyst has been filled. You're done with that search is what you're saying?
We're done with that search. I believe the offer letter is going out this week. I spoke to the director of personnel last week regarding that.
Okay. All right, and then after that has been filled, you'll be posting the junior financial analyst. So while we're still on this topic, and you have somebody on paid administrative leave, the part-time person that is assisting with COG is helping you in the purchasing area?
That is correct.
Okay. And it's only a part-time person. Is this a full-time position?
Yes.
The person who is on leave is a full-time position.
Is a full-time position, correct.
And the person that is helping you is part-time about how many hours?
Roughly 20-something hours a week.
Okay, so, okay.
Last week it was 27 hours.
Okay. So it doesn't fill the whole position. It only fills half of the position. Let's just be clear about that.
That's correct. It is.
Okay.
It is. This individual is here to review and improve the processes around procurement, to improve the boilerplate forms that are being used to make sure that everything is compliant. She's been working with legal to make sure that there are standard contracts in place so that there's no delay once an RFP or a bidder has been selected. She is reviewing all of West Haven's internal processes. I have asked her to reach out to her contacts in SCROG and CCM regarding, for example, other towns and their processes for onboarding vendors. Rather than recreate the wheel, I would like to steal the best practices from other municipalities.
How long is that going to take?
She's already working on it, sir.
How long is it going to take?
Well, according to the action plan, we should have a draft of the internal procedures by the end of this week. Michael Milone has been working with her on that. We will finalize the document according to this by December 3rd and have a final purchasing and procedures manual by December 15th.
Thank you.
Frank, one other question. What other positions are vacant?
So I met with,
Mayor?
yep, I met with the city council, I believe it was last Monday, and indicated to them that we need to create a procurement director position. We will fill the current purchasing position either with the current individual or with somebody. There is also, I told them, within finance itself, I would like to add another junior accountant because the workload, we just can't keep up with it. So they have been informed of what I will be coming back to them with. We are putting together the cost related to each of those positions. The job descriptions are being written up. The consultant that we are using, as the mayor indicated, will be working with the personnel director. They have been contacting their sources within other municipalities and the private sector to put together a job description around a procurement director, which I would expect to be somewhere in the low six-figure salary range to make sure that we do get someone who is qualified and does have a procurement background. With that, we should be able to get an understanding of where else we'll need to bolster, if needed, the procurement process here in West Haven.
I agree with that. Actions, Frank and Mayor.
And the expectation is on the document that was sent to you, the expectation is on the 13th, there's a city council meeting at which point we will be, I will present to them all of this information. If we can get everything pulled together for the meeting prior to that at the end of November, we will try to get that done. But at the very least, the 13th, we will present to the council. On the 14th, the personnel director will post the positions with the job descriptions, and we're off to the races.
Frank, Bob White, one question. I'm a little unclear on the purchasing position. You indicated that that would be filled either by the current person who is on administrative leave or a new person. I don't
Not the director, not the director.
Not the director.
The director of
Not-
procurement will be filled as quickly as possible.
It's a brand new position.
Okay.
Exempt, correct?
Correct.
All right, but the person that, whatever the position is, and I guess I'm getting jumbled, is the one that's on administrative leave. Is it anticipated that person's coming back and will carry on the function, or is that an open question?
I think it's open question.
At this point, it's an open question.
Okay, I don't want to get into personnel matters. But
Correct.
is there a timeline for decision?
Within the week.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Very good.
Could I ask a follow-up question for Frank? So
Yes, Tom.
in my understanding, then your proposal is purchasing is going to be a two-person department with a director and then this other, I'm not sure what
A buyer/analyst.
buyer/analyst. So that's the intention, is a two full-time person department, or is it ultimately more than that?
Well, to begin with, it will be a two-person department. The research I've done around other municipalities our size is that it's a minimum of two, in some cases, three-person department.
Yeah, that was exactly what I was going to say. Was
Thank you.
I think under the circumstances, you might want to look at really a three-person department for a city the size of West Haven. You've got a lot of activity, and if you're doing it and doing it right, that requires staff. And and I think it's really important that director position be a true purchasing professional. Likely, needs to be someone from outside the organization. And as Kim said, I'm assuming that's an exempt position, both FLSA exempt as well as bargaining. It's not in a bargaining group. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Good.
Can I clarify one thing though about that, because we're on this subject? So the positions that we're talking about, they follow certain portions of the 1103 contract, the management union. They don't have everything, all the benefits. So just so that you are aware, there is a resolution that has been passed by the city council. It's been changed over the years, but there is a resolution that allows them, certain things, whether it be, vacation, retirement, whatever that may be. So just so that you're aware of that.
Just because it follows it doesn't mean that they're part of the bargaining unit, though. They're not.
Correct. You're absolutely right.
You're just complementing the benefits of the bargaining unit.
Correct. We're just taking, and again, they don't get the same exact thing as the bargaining unit. They get a lot, less. But that being said, there is a resolution, and the council has, the last time it was updated, I want to say it was probably like 3 years ago, maybe a couple of years ago. And it is in writing, and it does go before the city council whenever any changes are made.
Christine, I saw you wanted to say something.
Yes, thank you, Kim. So as we await progress on the staffing up of the purchasing department, do we have a sense of how we've mapped, or how the city has mapped the internal controls that currently exist?
I have not seen a mapping of internal controls as of yet. And I think that is helpful, as well as we haven't seen an organizational chart of what finance look like to what we're proposing, what finance should look like, and to make sure that these positions that they're, what do those job descriptions look like, to make sure that we bring in qualified people. Of course, I would be very interested in that too, Christine. Great point.
Yeah, so I just want to echo some of the comments by Mr. Egan. While I do believe that this committee and the overall board has been pushing and continues to drive specifics around compliance with past audit findings, I do think that there are, outside of the matters that are being currently investigated, there are steps that we can take to get a better sense of what is currently in place.
Agreed.
And so, Frank, if that's something that you can provide to us, just kind of a chart along the lines of what Kim has described, the organizational chart, but really, the financial organizations, when confronted with vacancies, continually have to examine the checks and balances and the basic financial controls. So what exists now would be helpful to this committee. And if that could be added to your list of short-term deliverables, that would be appreciated.
Sure, no problem. I have the org chart already done for the current state. It would just be a matter of adding the new position, so that's not going to be a problem. And I think the controls and the other issues would be addressed by what I'm trying to draft up for Cohn-Resnick as to where we are currently. So I would expect to be able to get you that.
Very good.
Thanks very much.
And Frank, I can easily talk with you about a matrix built on internal controls and the processing that would be helpful for Cone as well as this committee.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So thank you for all of the work that has been done in purchasing. I know that and accounts payable. I see a larger focus. I'm thinking more on purchasing, but we definitely need to make sure both of those areas are shored up properly. And the step-by-step requisition process that you included. I wasn't looking to go through those items today. I do know that the mayor has said she had a hard stop in 6 minutes. So I'm wondering if anybody else has any other questions around the MOA and the work that Frank has already done.
Bob, this is a little off.
Hold on. Okay, hold, Stephen. Sorry, Bob already started.
Okay. Yeah, this was something on the tick list that doesn't relate to hiring. There was something about some kind of policies about use of sale proceeds of assets. And the response was, we don't expect any in 2022. My recollection was that there were some asset sales in the last year or so, and that we were going to be informed of how the proceeds were going to be used. And I don't remember the result, but I am over 50, so I could have forgotten.
Can I know that we have been trying to sell the schools.
That's what I thought was the schools.
As of right now, I know there was a hydroponic plan put up. As far as I know, nothing has been sold. I can check better with Attorney Tiernan to make sure I haven't missed anything, but to my knowledge, and we're talking about city assets, obviously,
yes.
But we still are trying to market the schools and get them sold. So it would be great, to your point, that we have a plan as to where that money would go, that funding.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
And Stephen, you had a question.
Yeah, I've been listening, and I've been on this board now for 2 years, and many of the issues that we're talking about today, we've been talking about for 2 years.
Yes, we have.
So it's a little frustrating for me to listen to this. And though I certainly want to help, but I feel like every time I get into a West Haven meeting, I always feel like you ever hear the term running out the clock? I always feel like somebody's running out the clock on me. So I just want Frank and the mayor to know that if we're going to be committed to this and we're going to keep talking about this, all these issues that we've talked about today, we've been talking about for 2 years.
Yes.
So now there's a crisis, or you're in the middle of a supposed crisis, and I really feel like it was self-inflicted. All these controls. I mean, mayor's a CPA. I mean, the one thing I know most CPAs that I've ever dealt with, they always talk about checks and balances and controls. And Frank's the chief financial officer. Checks and there's balances that you have to check and control. You need to have checks and balances and everything. And because we don't have checks and balances, here we are 2 years later in the middle of a crisis talking about these issues. So, if we're going to fix this, let's fix it. Period. That's all I really have to say. And I agree with what Christine said and also what Mr. Egan said. Very on point. And Bob White also. So that's
Can I just respond, Kim?
Yes.
Just so that everyone's aware, yes, I am a CPA. I keep my license up. I do my credits every year to make sure I keep that license because I work very hard to obtain that license. But that being said, when I am a mayor, I cannot do both mayor, finance director, finance jobs, or anything. I am the mayor, and that is my responsibility to the residents of the city of West Haven. I have a lot of other duties, and it's not just finance at that point in time. If I am aware of a problem, I get involved immediately. So I think that that's important to make sure everyone does know that. And we are very serious about correcting these situations. But as everyone knows, we were put in MARB within a day of myself, or 2 days of taking office, because of the deficit bonding. And when I tell everyone, and I've said this a lot of times, everything was broken here. And I'm not kidding about that. And I think everyone on this panel would agree with that. It takes time. It wasn't broken in 6 months. It's not going to be repaired in 6 months. So we try every time we can. When we first got in, our purchasing department was one person that half the time worked on purchasing and the other half of the time worked on risk management. We had to make cuts in corporation counsel to the tune of 30%, because and this is before I think pretty much anybody that's on this call was involved. This was when Ben Barnes was the secretary, and it was because what happened was they deficit bonded the previous administration and still left a deficit. So we were instructed that we had to take 2 million of the 8 for the deficit from the year before, and then only have 6 million. So and I hate to put an only with 6 million. I appreciate the 6 million, and this is what we've been trying to do. So we have made progress. Do I wish it was more? Absolutely, I wish it was more. And I go in every day, and so does my staff, and everyone's trying to work with everyone. We're not doing it to, be obstinate or anything at all like that. And part of the problem was, but at least now I do agree in the staffing, the increases in the staffing, because unfortunately our staffing, as I said, when you have one person and only half of the day, which, it's only a 7-hour day, works on purchasing, and the other half they work on risk management, I don't know how that would ever have improved if we didn't make changes. So I'm all in favor of the new positions. I'm hopeful that the city council will be on board with these new positions. And as I said, I would like to get the director of purchasing that job description done ASAP, and hire both those positions. And like Mr. Hamilton had strongly suggested, and then look possibly to a third position, because we are a large city, and I do want proper controls in place. And that's how you have proper controls in place, when you have proper people in the jobs with the proper credentials. Thank you.
Well,
Yeah,
and I'll just get back to what I was saying, and I agree with you, Mayor, everything that you said, and I appreciate that. And I understand that the problems that you inherited were generational problems. These things weren't things that just popped up all of a sudden. You were mayor, and 2 days ago they happened. These are generational problems. But what I don't want to continue to do, as a member of this board and as a representative of the I guess we're representing the people of the state of Connecticut, is I don't want to continue to throw money at a problem unless I know that there's an end in sight. And I also don't want to be involved in something where I'm rewarding bad behavior. And I'm not saying you have bad behavior. I'm just saying that I don't want to reward bad behavior. And I feel that over the last few years, we need to get past this. And what I would rather do going forward is, when we have these meetings, is I would rather fix things instead of talking about fixing them. All right.
I agree.
So I agree also. I absolutely do.
And I understand that you wear many hats, and I can't even imagine what it's like. I've never been a mayor. I don't have any intention of being a mayor. But so I certainly appreciate your position, and I understand where Frank's at. But that's all well and good. This is, you're wearing the hat, and, heavy is the crown. So, somewhere along the line, we just got to get this fixed, because I don't think this can go on forever. And I don't think the people of the state of Connecticut want it to go on forever either. So
no, and I agree. And one thing in this budget, one of the things that I think shows the improvement that we have made is we are not relying on any restructuring funds in FY22. And I think that's a major accomplishment. And I'm hoping that, we can continue to move forward in a positive direction in budgets in the next years to come.
thank you.
Yeah, Kim, when did West Haven come under the control of the MARB?
18, Julian?
Mm-mm. Nope.
No?
I can answer that. 17. Well, as soon as I
17.
got into office, whatever that first Sunday was, I think I was summoned by then Secretary Ben Barnes to Hartford and was handed the letter that we were under MARB. And the reason was because of the fact that they deficit bonded on their way out the door. I mean, literally, I think it was the Wednesday night before Thanksgiving, they deficit bonded. The bad part about that was I understand that we had a deficit, but they also left a deficit in that year. And that's where we had to clean that up. But no, it was 17. It definitely, I remember that'll stick in my mind. I don't have the exact date, but whatever that first Sunday was, it was like the Tuesday that we got summoned to Hartford.
I wasn't here then.
Yeah, so I was,
Yep.
and, I'm just gonna expound on what Steve said. It is the better part of 2 years for him. It's about 4 years for me, and I just don't buy it anymore. Okay, I didn't expect things to change overnight. You're right. There's a cultural thing in that town of just not getting it right, and when the opportunity comes to do the right thing, sometimes it's just not done. And but we're 4 years into this now. It wasn't, and where the MOA that was in effect for fiscal 21 had dates of April 1st, May 1st to get some of these things done that still aren't done. And the MOA is clear. I mean, the funds can be delayed or they can be withheld. And it's kind of come down to it for me that the way I kind of summarize this whole relationship between the board and West Haven, it's like, West Haven's Lucy, the budget and controls and best practices are the football, and we're Charlie Brown. And I don't know how many more times, it's kind of like, it's going to get done. We're trying. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. We're given millions of dollars in taxpayer money, okay? And, let's put some things in perspective, okay, before everybody starts patting themselves on the back. West Haven doesn't have any money plugged in because there was a substantial forget our money that we've given over the years, but there was, you have federal money that's plugged some of these holes, but you also have pretty decent increase in pilot reimbursement. Is that not correct, Kim?
Correct.
Okay. So, there's been no grand accomplishment here. And I can't sit back and have that just repeatedly said. Okay. I'm not saying that people don't try, but you know what? Guess what? It ain't good enough. It ain't good enough. Millions of dollars of taxpayer money from the state, that we're supposed to be the stewards of. All right. And we sit there and draw lines in the sand. Okay. They're constantly crossed and we just keep allowing it. At this point, I would tell you the $4 million, there wouldn't be a dime going to West Haven. They can go into the fund balance. That the only reason why there's a fund balance is because we overfunded the city with state taxpayer money, okay, to create a positive fund balance. All right, but when to me it's, and I understand. Listen, and I think it's part of the problem too. The mayor's not supposed to be the department head for all these departments. She's supposed to have reliance in her department heads. All right, and I'm going to go back to this, Frank, who, and here comes the the hand, but. When I preface my statement with, I like you a lot, and I certainly think you're a positive for West Haven. But when you say to us that you've been like asking these things for the better part of a year, and you basically just get a short shrift from these department heads, like, yeah, it ain't happening. And according to the mayor, she didn't even know that your directors weren't being complied with until they were raised by this board last week. All right. And then in a thing that I still haven't got my arms around why you would ask that, When the mayor says, yeah, she's certainly there to, if people aren't listening to you, to kind of lay down the law, that you ask like, will we intervene? I mean, listen, if you're in a position and you can't get it done, maybe you're not the person for the position. Okay, but it also things come from the top. I don't expect the mayor to be sitting there going every department looking at things. That's not her job. If department heads can't do it, as I said, a week ago, as I said 2 years ago, okay, if I was in charge, okay, and a subordinate told me, no, sorry, we don't like it, we don't get it, so we're not going to do it, guess what? They'd be out of a job. That's what they'd be out of. All right, and the seriousness of this situation, okay, doesn't get revealed because we just keep moving the line. We make the false threats and just, oh, well, okay, you don't have it. Here you go. We'll give you another chance. And it becomes so ridiculous. To me, I think that we're not fulfilling certainly our duties of what the intention of this board is supposed to be. And I think we are, it's really a disservice, not only to taxpayers in West Haven, but to the taxpayers of the state of Connecticut who are footing this bill. Okay, so the West Haven's on some, I guess, I don't even want to say sound financial ground, but, not in deficit because of mainly two reasons. We've given them a ton of money and there's been increased pilot funding.
Correct.
Right, but when there's been scenarios where there's been money that's out there, all right, and there's been a decision made what to do with it, you see the bad decisions. Paying exempt employees time and a half payouts. Ridiculous. All right. As far as I'm concerned, people should be in jail or fired for that, whoever approved it. Okay. Things like where you take some of this COVID money, and one of the things bought was $8,000 in like little award coins to give out to employees by the Human Resources Director.
How about the marching band?
What's that?
Let's not forget the marching band.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like, you have a city that's basically, treading water. And that's what we're going to do with $8,000, in the scheme of things. And that's a problem with government. Everybody says, well, look at the budget. It's so many hundreds of millions of dollars. What's $8,000? It's $8,000. And that's what it shows. What it shows is when completely left to like someone's own decision making, the decision is not made correctly. Okay. And things like that come from the top. And I'll tell you, and we let it go last year. It was totally wrong, violated multiple things. But even when the mayor took a payout of her vacation time, and there was some reference to a statute about payouts of vacation, yeah, that involves employees. Elected officials under the Connecticut Department of Labor are not employees. That was inappropriate. It was illegal. And we sat back and did nothing. Shame on us.
I wasn't familiar with that.
What's that?
I don't recall that unless you're reading that in the paper. I'm not familiar with that.
No, I'm recalling it from when it happened. Okay, it was 2 or 3 weeks of vacation time that was paid out to the mayor. Okay, in violation, which I think Mr. Attorney Tiernan somehow it got submitted like to validate it. It actually totally showed that it was completely not authorized, but a resolution, probably the one that the mayor refers to with the bargaining, where certain non-union employees got certain things. Okay, but a payout to the mayor for a vacation time, it was so wrong that the attorney said, "Oh, it's not happening anymore. We're not allowing it." Well, listen, if it was authorized, it's authorized, and he doesn't have the authority to take that benefit away. But it's not. Okay, and it's things like that that trickle down. Okay, which create the thing when everybody's alone in the corner and our eyes ain't watching. Okay, to me, I'm going to tell you right now, the right decision will not be made in this city. And anybody who goes on thinking that is either part of the problem or too incompetent to realize it.
Thank you, Pat. One thing I do want to bring to the attention is that when I came on 2 years ago, this city had 15 audit findings. Those audit findings have been reduced to 8. So I don't want to lose the sight that some progress was made through this. But again, I think that some of the funds that should have been given should have been used to make sure that we fill the infrastructure of the proper staffing. And that is showing that this city is not prepared to leave us because the infrastructure is not there, or you would not be in the position that you're in today.
So Kim, what you just said is very important. So you have 2 years ago, we have this audit finding. You have 15 open issues. And what'd you say? They completed 8 in 2 years?
They are down to this. It went from 15 to 8 under the watch that since I've been here for 2 years.
So how's that for a batting average?
Actually, in auditing, if they're very large, it can be a multi-year process to clear. And based on those findings that they have, and I've experienced this in places of employment that I've had where I've been the one going in and cleaning up, that can happen. Policies and procedures, putting them in, unless you pay somebody to help you do that, folks are usually in doing the regular positions. And so that can be one of the areas that gets lax. And unfortunately, and that can take more than 1 year to get a full accounting manual developed, and HR manual if you did not already have one. And what I'm hearing from Frank is that he hasn't found one yet. So that's disturbing.
Well,
that he doesn't have something he can dust off, update, and let's make it current.
Well, a couple of things that Frank said I thought
Sure.
were pretty important. One, that he's going to mirror some of the other like-sized cities on some of the policies and procedures. But I think what Mr. Egan's talking about is something we've been touching on for at least the 2 years that I've been on,
Sure.
is that Frank and the mayor need to change the culture in New Haven, if that in West Haven, if that's what I'm hearing. And I think that's very important. And the policies and procedures start from the top and work their way down.
Yep.
I think Mr. Egan's right on point with what he mentioned.
I
agree. I think the culture needs to change here. My understanding with talking to the assistant finance director is that he has told the last 3 administrations that the city needs at least one buyer for the procurement department.
It's the only way you're going to save money is to have a buyer.
It is.
It can't be decentralized. It needs to be centralized.
Right. The issue we have is that at the end of the day, and the people who have been on this MARB for several years have seen it, is that the city council is reluctant to hire people. I reminded them last week that it took 2 years to hire an additional IT person, and that was after there was a breach. They
wanted to outsource it to the third party.
Yeah.
I was highly against that.
I am hoping that they understand, to Mr. Egan's point, we have the pilot money now, the additional pilot money. They have no opportunity. There should be no opportunity to hide again behind a lack of funding to fill the positions that are needed.
I think we all agree. It should not be an argument on any part. So we talked about open positions. It kind of morphed into the next. We did ask for organizational chart, and that will be helpful. And when you give us the organizational chart, Frank, please tell me the positions that are vacant that we're working on. I think we touched upon all of the corrective action. We didn't have to go through it in detail. We know there are many items that are still not done and need attention. There is one other item under other business, unless some of the members have other conversations that they would like to bring forth. Frank, I don't know if you know the answers to this, but this was asked and it was included in the minutes from today's packet, is that what is the status of the ARPA funding? To my knowledge, the ARPA funding has not gone out, and that the plan that the mayor had was to have a survey that goes to the residents and to have 2 public hearings. And I'm wondering if any of this has been established yet, or is this still pending?
No, so the funds have, of course, been received. They are held in a separate fund within the accounting system. Nothing has gone out yet. The mayor or the city has posted to the website a survey requesting input from the residents. They did receive some. It was not what I'll call a stellar response. They are trying again. The city council members are expected to reach out to their constituents, to try to get increased input from the community. There is a meeting, I believe it's this Friday. The city council has requested CCM to come in to give a little presentation regarding programs that are ARPA compliant that will help them move forward. I did provide to them a document from CCM regarding exactly that. The document was put together to help communities build the list of projects. I provided Westport's proposed project list as well as Fairfield. I believe Fairfield has completed theirs. I sent the final list to them. The goal is still to hold 2 public meetings to review the projects. At that point, the city council will then make the final decisions regarding what projects the money should be spent on. The expectation is then, once those projects have been identified, I have spoken to the individual who's responsible for the website. We intend to post those projects on the website, and as progress is made on a monthly basis, the vendor payments will be posted as well. That way there is complete visibility into what the money is being spent on and who the money is being paid to. With my hope is that if something falls through the cracks, that it would be noticed and we could be notified. Just another series of eyes looking at the data. But they are moving forward. They know that the deadline is, I believe, the end of January, that something needs to be finalized. And at that point, the projects will have been identified and budgets set for each individual project.
Okay. Then I'm looking for, it's either, when do you think we would be able to see a draft or a potential plan? I know that, but prior to even being approved, that could come forth to the MARB.
I have not seen a timeline yet, but I will contact the mayor.
Well, okay, yeah. So if it's going to be finalized at the end of the January, I'm assuming that we're going to be able to look at something in December.
The city council at their last meeting had communicated that to the mayor. They do not want to wait until the last possible moment, get a list, and then be forced to immediately respond to it. They want several weeks to be able to digest what is being requested so that it can be thought through on their part before making the final approvals.
Okay. So we're in November. I'm assuming that by December 14th, maybe we'll be able to see a draft at our next West Haven meeting.
I hope so. I will
Okay.
pass that along.
Very good. Thank you.
And I'll make sure that everyone knows it's not the final list. It's a list of potential projects that are being evaluated.
Sure. As other towns have brought this information forward to the MARB, that will be helpful.
Yep.
That is all I have for today. Any other questions from the members? No. All right. thank you all for your time and your effort. And can I get a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Who said that? Pat? Pat Egan?
Yeah.
Okay. Who was the second? I'm sorry.
Bob,
Thank you, Bob. And all in favor?
yay.
Aye. All right, any opposed?
Aye.
Happy
I hear no opposed.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Thank you. You too, Stephen.
Thank you all.
Thank you.